and welcome to Witch Chat Chats. And come on in and sit for a spell. We are sponsored by Evermoving We Rise and Moonlight Potions and Charms, and also by our co-host and wizard for hire, Saul Ravencraft. How you doing, Saul?
I am fantastic, Nikki. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you. All right. So I hear that you've been kind of busy.
Oh my goodness. Busy doesn't even begin to describe. Uh, Sherwood Forest Fair has opened, and that basically takes me largely from Friday afternoon through Monday morning. But I've managed to have some things scheduled on Friday nights. So, for example, last weekend, opening weekend, I did something at the Elysium Club in Austin based on the Night Circus. It was a fun show. There was burlesque and performance, and I did some art things and some of that. But I didn't get to bed over at Sherwood until 3 in the morning, and had to be up at 7. And then I have 7 shows that I'm participating in throughout the day with a costume and character change in between each one. And so that's just bang, 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 bang all day long. And I found myself that Saturday night, I was at Walmart. I was originally going to get some Chinese food somewhere, but I spent 45 minutes looking for my car keys. And I finally got to the Walmart good hour later than I had planned to, and I'm just going to get something to microwave, and I'm just standing there staring at the foods, the frozen foods there, just going, I just could not think at all, and also following that was Vault of Horror at the drive-in. Last Tuesday night, I was doing readings in San Antonio for a corporate event. I had a bachelorette party on Friday.
Oh, did you
And
strip?
no, it's actually. I mean, I know that's kind of where everybody goes with it, but this is something that I think is really truly wonderful because when they were talking about bachelorette party, that was the first thing that popped in my head, that it was just going to be crazy. And not that they were looking for me to strip. Nobody wants me to strip. I know that.
You never
But
know, though, Saul.
the
You do have
the
your fans now.
the thing that was wonderful was these people had encountered me at the Museum of the Weird, and they were genuinely interested in going down the rabbit hole. They want the artifacts. They want the intuition games. They want the readings. It's going to be a group of people like that. And wow, I'm really, really, I'm amazed to attract that. That somehow that vibration is getting into other places there, and that and it has been crazy. The March and April are just going to be nuts, because normally what I would expect to happen is a slow down. I just kind of be stupefied during the weeks and do Sherwood. But I've actually had an uptick in the kinds of things that people are wanting me to do. And it's challenging. I mean, it gets in that careful what you wish for area, right? But honestly, this is what I've been asking for. I've been asking to be doing the work instead of pursuing the work. And it's happening, so it's thrilling, but it's also scary and exhausting, and I'm having to learn how to rework my energy to keep that going. But I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy about that. What is going on with you?
Well, the thing about it is I've been working on our website for Moonlight Potions and Charms. I took it down so we can be able to redesign it and to provide additional products for people. And so I've been having a little fun time doing that. Don't we just love technology? Isn't it so much fun? Especially when my computer decides, hey, I just want to take a break. I don't want to really work on this anymore. Awesome.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's just, yeah, so everybody's like, well, you can just plug it in, and no. When it tells me that, I take it as a sign to say that I need to go and do something else. So I've been doing some work in the garden and so forth, and doing some conjuring and having a little bit of fun and some self-care. So I've been really, really trying to do that and trying to figure out a couple of things of what is going on and what's going to happen in the future. And I've also been on the Witchy World TV, which is by Star Raven Hawk. I want to say Ravencraft. It's Raven Hawk. And Rhonda. And that was very interesting being able to do. And I've met with some new people and some new friends that
Nice.
I'm hoping that we're going to get something started and have a lot of things, in the midst working out. All right. So you want to know what our divination is for today?
Always.
All right. So our divination today comes from Bill Murray.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know who Bill Murray is, you need to watch the original Ghostbusters. Okay. As well as some other different movies from the 80s. He's hilarious. And he says, quote, "Whatever you do, always give it 100%, unless you're donating blood." And I think that's very good advice.
This is true. This is true. Well, I'll give a little bit of a caveat to that. I agree that when you're putting your energy into something that you want to do, you do need to be all in. You gotta trust yourself, and you gotta be all in. But also, that second thing he says, there are different kinds of donations of blood. There's going in and giving blood for a good cause. There's also the vampires, and I think that we need to be conscious.
If you like the sex with the vampire, it might be actually kooky and interesting. So,
but we do have vampires that come and take from us, and we've got to be aware of what's going on. And is that energy going for something that's in harmony from us, or are we just being fed upon? And we got to be aware there's more than one way to give blood, and recognize those situations where you're being fed upon. That's really the only way I can think of it. And there's all kinds of ways that happens. Volunteerism, it started as a good idea, but then people went, oh, well, you can't go run your business or have your life or take care of your family or anything like that, because this needs to get done. Or I'll trash you, right? We've dealt with stuff like that, and it's when people become to depend on you without necessarily giving 100% themselves. You got to watch for that. It happens in all areas. It happens in romantic relationships. It happens in work relationships. It happens in spiritual situations. And it can be difficult to see it if you're not. In fact, I feel like our guest today fits really well into that, because he's going to talk about some of what masks our true understanding of what's going on with us.
Yeah, it's, you really have to do your self-care, especially for your physical, mental, and emotional, and your spiritual health. Otherwise, you can't be able to go and function. And that's something that's really hard, especially for women, because society has always told us, you got to go take care of everybody else. You can't take care of yourself. You take care of yourself, you're selfish. And I'm sorry, that's a crock.
Mhm.
And we're kind of getting forced to be able to do this. So I even myself, even though I do everything I can to try to keep, my own personal self-care and stuff like that up, there's sometimes that I don't see it when it's coming until you're
Right,
there. And
right.
when you're there, you need to be able to say, hey, I need to take a step back and I need to reevaluate.
Yeah,
And that's okay. Take a step back for yourself.
yeah.
Um, and most people are like, well, you have to take a step back, but you're doing this and this and this and this and that. And I'm like,
Want to bet?
and that may be the problem. You're doing, all this other stuff and you're not leaving any time for yourself or your own self care.
Right.
So that's one of the things I think that our guest host is going to be able to shine some light upon.
Sure.
And I kind of really like that because we don't talk about that a whole lot. We talk about how we're supposed to be helping everybody else and how trying to help yourself for a little bit is self-centered. And it's
Right.
not always.
Well, we've talked about that kind of idea with people like Libby Armstrong, that people who are making their practice their center, and really digging into it. If you are really good at debate and details, having a law practice is perfectly fine. If you are someone who's good with technology, being a technician or a programmer or something like that is perfectly fine. If you are good at writing and expressing yourself and enlightening or even educating yourself, they're perfectly fine things to do that. But if you're good at something in this sort of woo space, well, no, you're supposed to give that away, honey. You're,
Oh
you
yeah, oh
can't.
yeah. Mhm. Just like you can't charge for tarot readings. Oh my God,
Right.
you charge for tarot readings, and oh, you're charging for your spiritual products that you're making? Really? You're not supposed to do
Absolutely.
that. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, you're full of shit. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just the way I kind of look at it. Um,
Well, and I think this feeds into one of the I'm working on an article that is advice to give to parents of children who are leaning in a magical direction. Uh, and the place that I'm trying to focus on is how you deal with being villainized. There's a lot of people that when you go down the rabbit hole and you discover these other aspects of how the universe works and your place in the universe, there's a lot of people that really want to cast you as the supervillain. And Nikki, sometimes when people make you the supervillain, you just need to go and build yourself a fucking volcano lair with minions and lasers and just own it. And when you move on to this magical path, I think ultimately we're moving in this direction as a society. I think 100 years from now, you'll see a lot more integration of what we think of as spirituality and magical thinking as a regular part of society as we slough off some of this old stuff.
right.
But until then, we're dealing with a lot of last gasps. We're dealing with a lot of organizations, a lot of people who are feeling the trembles in their foundation, and they're feeling the instability, and they're feeling the loss of their authority on being able to control what people are allowed to think and control what people are allowed to explore.
Hmm.
And so for now, as you make these discoveries and you learn how to follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell would say, you have to have a thick skin against the people that are afraid of that. and who make you the villain. And you have to be really clear on the fact that that's not about you. That is about their misunderstanding and their inability to understand.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about the power of myth. That's the class I've been teaching. We talked about that a while back, and very recently he talked about that all myth, all of these spiritual things are metaphor. They all tell you the same things, but they're stacked in different ways. And people who are able to look at that and see the symbolism, explore the metaphor, and see it as malleable, those people have one experience with their spirituality. And then for the people who cannot do that, we have these marble statues that you may pray and sacrifice to. And they deal with these ideas literally. But you're really not supposed to. You're supposed to understand the symbolism, and that this is something that moves and shifts. Now, when you pick one that resonates with you, yeah, you do that. You do it deeply. You devote yourself to it. But if you're trying to compare one over the other, they are doing the same thing if you can see it, if you don't get stuck on the metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Even when you know you do it, you still have things that kind of go, you gods, get out of my yard.
Well, it's like what I posted on my Facebook page today about haters. I got 2 graphics that I saw this morning. I said, hey, this is something that really is true. One of the graphics says, dear haters, I have so much more for you to be mad at. Be patient. And then the other one says, I need new haters. The old ones became my fans. It's although I try to kind of lighten the mood when I'm trying to find quotes kind of like that, it's really, until you actually have haters, it seems like nobody wants to pay attention to you.
Right.
And when you have haters, people of all different lifestyles begin to watch. And if they're smart, they'll discover you are actually a wonderful person who inspires others to be the best people that they can be. And that's actually a very, very beautiful thing. And, I've, since I've supposedly have come out and we started to broadcast and everything, man, I have so many haters. But you know what? Fine. I really like that, because a lot of them have become my fans as well. And, it's one of those things, it's basic human nature. Human nature, they want you to stay the same all the time. But we can't stay the same. We have to grow. We have to bend. We have to change. We have to go with the flow. We have to go where spirit leads us to be.
Right.
And I have no idea why I'm going off in this direction. So,
well, but it is shocking when you discover that you have a hater, when you have someone that has just cast you in this bizarre demonic light. And it's not a joke. It's not right. They're not trying to mess with you. They really believe that you are evil. And you're like, where in the world did that come from? And your instinct, I think for a lot of us, is to try and fix it. Oh, there's a misunderstanding here. Let me explain. Oh, I've not interacted with you correctly. Let me try to do it better. Oh, how can I help heal this? And they you want to heal this? Fine, burn. That's the only answer they got. And they really, for whatever reason, don't want you to exist. And it's a weird thing. But it's necessary, because everyone is evil to someone else.
And it's not about you, it's about them.
That's right. That's right. And you got to
and that's the hardest thing you can say. It's just like at one of the festivals that I was vending at last year. There had this person who came by and called me Satan. And I'm like, no, we meet him at 3:00 in the morning. That's during the witch's hour. That's when we meet him. It's at 3:00 in the morning. And it was nothing but, you know, from their point of view, that apparently for that reason, whatever, they just decided that I was just going to be this holy, you know, evil type of thing. And yes, I'm sorry, I'm not always a nice and pretty and, you know, wonderful person. Sometimes I can be evil. I admit that. Everybody actually has a side to that. But
Evil's
if you
relative.
sit there, right. But if you sit there and you take everything seriously and you take everything to heart, then you're never going to end up getting out of that mode. So that's the reason why you had to kind of laugh at some of the things and you know, for your own self-care. And like I said, haters are wonderful people. I want more of them so they can become more my fans.
Well, there you go. Well, I guess with that, it is time for us to take a little bit of a commercial break. We're going to hear from our sponsors that make this show go. And we will be back on the flip side with our special guests. Stay tuned.
Anybody can tell you what is on a tarot or oracle card. What matters is seeing beyond what others may not be able to see and help the client to uncover what lies in the mist. What do readings from Moonlight Potions and Charms do? Wednesday, I did this ancestor reading, and it was an amazing reading. And it was a detailed reading. And I remember talking to this customer's ancestors, and it was so delightful. And he wanted some questions to be answered about the magic in his family because he didn't know. And his family was mostly like most of our families are. You know how everything is like hush hush when it comes to the magic in his family. And he wanted to know, who can he actually talk to about the history of the magic in his family? And I was able to give him specifically who he can go to talk to about that. What particular deity he can actually go to be able to help him with this. And it was just an amazing reading, and talking to his ancestors, they were such a delight, and they told me so much about this customer. It was just an absolutely wonderful reading for him, and I was just so happy to be able to give him this wonderful reading. It's really amazing to be able to give people these readings, these products that's really going to help them, and be able to give back to the community, because this is what Moonlight Potions and Charms is about. We want to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. That is what we are all about. It's to help you to do that. Book now and allow our wonderful staff to take care of your spiritual reading needs. And there is so much more in our Wicked store to help you to embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotionscharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you.
I'm Saul Ravencraft, co-host of Witch Hat Chats. I understand just how confusing and chaotic it can be to open to a path of magic and manifestation. Everything seems to turn on its head. I want to be an ally as you find the way upon your path. My studio setup will let us do readings, coaching, and exploration virtually, just as though you were sitting across the table from me. One size does not fit all. and we will work together to craft the right approaches to build your practice, your confidence, and your power using the tools of divination, magical works, and spirit connections. It's never too late to embrace a new path and emerge empowered. Go to texasmojoman.com and select Contact to begin. There's a message now. Let's get started working on your very good fortune.
Have you wondered what spirituality is? Spirituality is limitless, as it does not contain any boundaries on beliefs or practices. Spirituality's most important component is personal experience and allows one to explore it freely. Evermoving We Rise is a spiritual moving tradition, as our name is our lifestyle, because we are persistently rising and moving forward. We realize that everyone's spiritual journey is extremely personal, but more easily traveled with reinforcement. We'll teach you to become friends with your shadow, emerge your authentic self, and give you time and space to develop your own spirituality. And when situations bump back, you'll have the entire community behind you, as we are a magical family who work to sustain each other. Discover the benefits of working within a society dedicated to helping you grow on your personal path. Visit us on our website, Linktree, or Facebook page and discover why we don't fit in the box.
Welcome back to part 2 of Witch Hat Chats. And I am very excited about today. We have a wonderful guest today.
We do. And this person is just as crazy as everybody else is.
We're all mad down here.
Mad is a long statement, honey. So, shall we bring our guest on?
Oh, take it away.
All right. The first news editor at the Wild Hunt, this guest host is a journalist, storyteller, who has been exploring the pagan past since the mid-20th century, long before the internet was created. Man, do you remember when the internet was created? So it's been that damn long, right?
Actually, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a long time ago, back in a galaxy far, far away. He is an ordained minister with the Church of the Sacred Earth and a priest of Poseidon. Here to chat with us about mental health and his book, Empty Cauldron, A Pagan's Guide to Coping with Depression, we are proud to present Terence P. Ward. How are you doing, Terence?
I'm doing really well, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me on today.
You're welcome. No problem. I'm glad that you were able to make it with us. And I can see, what are you wearing there?
Well, I'm having a bit of a bad hair day, and I heard you're fond of exciting head coverings, so I put on my my Green Man hoodie vest, which is kind of green raw silk and in a leaf pattern that I picked up at Rites of Spring a few years ago.
Love it. That sounds luxurious.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty awesome. With all that little green around you, and, you know, spring is supposed to be springing here.
I'm feeling the spring.
Yep. It's warm here during the days, and then it's freezing at nights. Awesome.
So you wrote about depression. This should be a pretty short conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Depression is just people being negative, and all you got to do is snap out of it, right?
Oh, sure. That's absolutely what it's all about. Your joke is spot on, Saul, because one of the things that makes depression such a tricky condition to deal with is the fact that it's a slippery term, because depression really does mean I can't find my phone and I don't know what to do, as well as I don't know if I want to go on living. And it means everything in between. And it's easy to misunderstand what people mean by that. And I think that's by design. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool animist, And I think depression is called that and makes it confusing on purpose, because the harder it is to talk about it, the harder it is to deal with it.
Right. And the love and gaslight that people give out doesn't really help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just fuel on the fire is what it is. It can be really tough because people who haven't experienced it don't know what it is. And people who have been through difficult, painful times, such as suffering from grief, might think that that's the same as depression, and it can have a lot of the same experiences, but it also might be different because it probably has an end at some point, and depression doesn't always feel like it's going to end.
Right.
Yeah, I remember being a mental health professional myself, especially when I had my clients, that a lot of people just didn't understand what depression actually was. And people would come up to me and say, "Oh, they're crazy." I'm like, crazy is not a psychological term. First of all, it's a social term, just like insane. Insane is not a psychological term. It happens to be a legal term. That is what these are. But, when you are depressed, especially around the holidays, people really tend to get really depressed around the holidays for various reasons. So if somebody is, let's say, going through a kind of a depression episode, what is something that they can do to kind of lighten their mood?
The best way to deal with depression is, well, you have to consider the fact that you're really being given advice by this internal voice. This depression is telling you things it wants you to do. It wants you to be a jerk. It wants you to be antisocial. It wants you to be a lot of things. And the best thing to do is the opposite of what's going on in that internal dialogue. If it says keep away from people, hang out with people. If it says hide in your room and don't move and stare at Netflix for hours a day, take a walk. If it says that Ben and Jerry's and potato chips is all you ever want to eat a salad. It's counterintuitive because it sounds like your own voice talking to you, and it's telling you exactly what will keep you in this state. And if you can hear what it's saying and listen to it, you can find out what it doesn't want you to do, because depression doesn't want you to have friends. Depression doesn't want you to have good health and hygiene. Depression doesn't want you to feel the spirits. It doesn't want you to feel health in your body, because that's not what is good for this spirit. I do think that depression is trying to protect us. I just think it's deeply, deeply misguided.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds like the what I call the conditioned self talking to you, that the conditioned self was originally designed to protect you, but there's times that it lies to you because it doesn't want you to change and wants you to stay the same, no matter who you are. That's what the conditioned self is. And then you have the authentic self who actually makes you go and move. It makes you open up that new business you wanted to do, or write that new book that you want written, or whatever it is what you want to do. For somebody who actually kind of suffers from depression from time to time, because I also do have PTSD, I know when these voices are saying these things to me, I have to get out, because when you get out, for example, if you go, like you said, take a walk. If you go and you take a walk, you can be able to kind of enjoy the sunlight. You can enjoy all kinds of difference of the atmospheres and so forth, because we need vitamin D in our system. And the best way to get vitamin D is, guess what? Get outside.
It's true.
Right. And then we also need other types of vitamins, and just being around those people. And I know it's hard at times, and there's times in which, but we have to kind of work past it. So for people who are saying that, well, why should I work past this? or why should I kind of not listen to that inner voice that's telling me that I need to sit down and watch Netflix all day and eat potato chips and Ben and Jerry's? And so what advice would you give them?
Well, I would start by saying that depression steals your life. It doesn't always kill people, although it really can, but it can steal your life. I'm someone that took 37 years to get a college degree because there was a lot of distractions along the way that had to do with this condition. That a person I'm talking to might say, well, my life isn't worth anything. There's no reason why it shouldn't be stolen. And I would say you need to spend time with other people, because other people will see in you the light and the love and the beauty that you don't see in yourself. I just had the most astounding experience just the other day that drives this home. Have you ever heard of a true mirror?
Mm-hmm.
True mirror is this mirror that's designed to let you see not a sincere reflection, but it sees yourself like you do in your mirror, in a camera. Like, I'm looking at this camera, and when I tilt one way, my head goes the other way, but I can't really make eye contact with myself in this. In a true mirror, you can look yourself in the eye and see your own spirit, and you see something. I saw something that just blew me away, how much life and potential there is in me. That, I know about it intellectually, but that's something you can usually only do with another human being. And it's when other people make eye contact with us, we connect our spirits, and that's why other people, other humans especially, are really good at reminding us why our lives are much more valuable and have much more positive impact in the world than it's often able for someone in depression to believe. As you said, there's gaslighting going on, and you need to have voices other than the ones that happen to be residing in your own head.
I think it's interesting that when you get past the definitions of depression and start working into, okay, so now what are we going to do? That the phrase you use is strategy. You approach this as a strategy. That's a very specific idea there. Strategy is pointed toward goals, toward objectives. So what would you say are some of the key objectives that you're trying to achieve when encountering your depression? And then if you want to break it down into the areas that you defined, that's great. But why strategy?
I think it's important to when I think of depression as a spirit, and I'm going to say, even though I really do mean that in a literal sense, I think it works figuratively as well. When I conceive of depression as a spirit, it means that I can have a conversation. I can say, what do you want from me? The first conversations I had with depression were, why the hell can't you go away? Because I was an angry person and I would want to fight it. And you cannot fight the waves. That's not the way to do much of anything when you're dealing with something that doesn't have a body of its own. You can't push back against it. But if you can have a conversation, you can come to some terms. One of the techniques that I've refined through writing this book is to create a separate shrine just for my depression. I created a nice little place for it to live. It gets its own altar. It has a nice little box that it can live in. I created a you might call it a poppet. I call it a totem that it can reside in. And if I pay attention to it when it's not in my body, it doesn't feel the need to necessarily get me to pay attention to it when it's in my body. This allows me to have that conversation. I can say to it, why do you feel I'm in danger? Because a lot of depression, from what it seems, from what the science I've read, it's a response to danger in the environment. It might be that you need to heal, which means you need to stay still. It might be that you should avoid people because you don't want to spread infection to your tribe. It's a very primitive and ancient spirit, and it doesn't understand that the world has changed. There's a lot more stresses. And if you can convince it that you can care about it, or that you understand that it can care about you, but it needs to be kind of over there, you might be able to convince it to allow you to kind of have some space. And that's also why I think it's phenomenally effective to have other people, because if the other people, as I said, in your life will tell you things that depression will not. Depression will do everything it can to keep your behavior in an isolated state, and you will never reach your potential. You'll never be able to bring healing and love and light into the world. When you have other people, you're going to, frankly, in your deepest depression, you're not going to believe any of them are telling the truth when they say something nice. You'll think that they're saying something horrible about you behind your back. But if you hear it enough, it's kind of like marketing. They say in marketing, you have to hear a message a certain number of times before you act on it. Well, you need to hear a certain number of times positive things about yourself before you can start to believe that it's true. And you're hearing a lot of negative things in your head. And that's why it's very important that you have other conversations. Now, those conversations can be with humans that just care about you. They can be with someone that you pay to have conversations with you, like a counselor or a therapist. They can also be with your pets. They can be with your gods, with your household spirits. Humans tend to be the most effective just because we can perceive them with all of our senses, and sometimes our subtle senses are dulled when we're in a period of depression. That's one of the things that feels depressed, is your ability to understand the flow of energy. You could probably work with energy, but you're going to be numb to it. It's kind of like typing with mittens. Doesn't mean you can't do it, especially if you're trained, but it does mean it's going to be harder, and you might start saying, this is nonsense. But if you have the training, you can continue. That's why I say humans. Humans are a very effective partner when you are trying to get yourself out of the torpor that is a state of depression.
Now, sometimes finding that group of humans can be challenging. For example, I've had to disconnect with some groups that I was involved with for a large portion of my life because it wasn't working. It wasn't helping. The transformations that I had undergone were not welcomed by those communities. And I think that a lot of people dealing with depression struggle to find, for exactly what you were talking about, they struggle to find what they feel are true inclusions and true reflections on themselves. Any thoughts to help someone address that?
I totally get where you're coming from on that, Saul. People in depression can often, as Nikki indicated, also be people who were survivors of trauma, and that can make it hard to open up to new people. And if you're rejected by people in your life, or you need to pull away from them, you might have a period of mourning, which makes it really hard and can mingle with your depression as you're trying to heal. I find that there are simple work, practices such as candle work and meditation can be very effective in helping focus on what you desire to bring into the world and into your own life, and helping you quiet the dissenting voices within your own heart to allow you to be open to that. It's infuriating because it always takes longer than anyone ever wants it to. But if you trust in something other than yourself, especially, it is possible.
Right.
Right. So are there some type, like, for example, I know with herbs and oils, there's, metaphysical properties. Is there a particular combination that you have found yourself that's particularly helpful when it comes to lifting depression?
I actually came up with a combination of stones that I use in bath work, soaking stones. I had to do a little bit of homework to make sure I didn't find any that would dissolve like malachite does in water, because some stones do, and you don't want that. That can lead to some real toxic problems. But I came up with a combination of stones such as I'm trying to think off the top of my head because I don't have them memorized. Rose quartz. There's you can use different forms of agate, and a variety of different stones. I think I posted it on my website, but if not, I'm gonna have to post my favorite recipe, because if what I do with them is I keep them in a muslin sack, and I keep them and I use them in the bath to allow them to draw off anything excess in case there's kind of a buildup of spiritual gunk that can lead me to be dragged down again. And then I just rinse it off with cold water when I'm done to help clear out whatever is accumulated. I'm not much of an herbalism expert. That's on my to-do list, but somehow I haven't found the time to do that yet.
All right. So do you have any final thoughts before we end the show for today?
I think if people who are experiencing depression it's okay to be brave and acknowledge that, at least to themselves or to someone else. Their silence is always good for depression and not good for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. So where can our people reach you at?
I do have several social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but I couldn't decide on a specific name. That's why I put them all on my website. And since my name is hard to spell, I made my website truepaganwarrior.com.
Awesome.
And all those links are prominent on that website, and you can find out more about that book and other writing projects as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show and discussing this very important topic that we need to. Unfortunately, we can't talk about it anymore. All right. So anyway, so that is all for our show today. Join us next week when Saul and I will be chatting with Storm Fairy Wolf. So embrace your power, support your community, and keep your fuzzy babies, your family, friends, and yourself safe. And have an absolute magical week.
I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk. Nikki, Kirby with that black stone. I agree, Evermoving We Rise. Laughing so will the beautiful mind. I'll give you blessings under moonlight. I know some people who like to chat. I think they're witches, how about that? And every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And if you're hurting, they're willing to talk.